time. Jimmy Butler entering the building. Philadelphia sitting at 4th in the East, and Butler's trying to hold things down. He's right at 18 points and 5 boards.
That's a big suitcase, Steph and Swin. He got everything he coming to the game
He's
with.
bringing his whole bag. That's why. James Harden. Now, everyone knows about the streak. Last 38 games, guys, he's averaged 40.5 points.
I mean, that's unreal. I mean, this is what he's been on the run. It's been historical, and I think he should get even more credit the run he's been on as far as scoring the ball and also the Houston Rockets.
They are 27 and 11 during that stretch. Let's take a look at the Corona limelight. Houston's last 6 games. Now, they needed to go on this streak, Swin, those 6 straight, to make the inroads to climb up in the West.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about it, I mean, this is a team right now that whenever they have their 3 guys healthy in Harden, Capella, and also Paul, they're 20 and 9. And that's important for this team to have everybody back healthy, and that's why they've been playing so well.
That's tremendous. I mean, you talk about where they were when we first started this season. The injuries started affecting them like dominoes. They had slipped all the way down to the 14th position, and now they find themselves in prime positioning to have home court advantage in the first round. Have you seen anything like that, Smitty, before?
I have not, because James Harden put that entire organization on his back.
On his back.
I mean, when you have Chris Paul out, Clint Capella, and I love Eric Gordon and those other guys, but it was James Harden. What he did was historically and fantastic. I'm with Swin. They need Clint Capella to be a team that you reckon with. But ultimately, to win a championship, it has to be CP3 for me. And he's been fantastic. After the 6 games, after the All-Star break, he's 18, 10, and 6 rebounds. They need that guy, that Robin that's going to be there. And Clint Capella, I love him, Swin, but, you know, he needs to be set up at times. He's not a back-to-the-basket post player, so his lobs, his drop-offs, his dish-off. Chris Paul, to me, is the key for them winning a championship. Clint Capella is the key for them getting to the Western Conference Finals.
And just look at it from this standpoint. We know James is going to score the ball, right? So he's going to score the basketball. And I agree with you, Smitty, when it comes down to CP3. Not because they need the points from him. It's because he sets everybody else up. All of those guys' game is predicated off of how he puts them in position to be successful. Whether you have Fareed that's running down the middle of the floor getting those lobs. Even P.J. Tucker now, he's starting to hit those shots. He struggled a little bit even when they were losing games. Having those guys back getting those open shots, even Gordon, that makes them start rolling, and that makes Houston so dangerous. We know James is going to score the ball, but those other guys, those utility guys everybody talks about, they have to be solid, and CP3 has to be the catalyst with them.
Now, we know the offense is there, clearly, right, when you look at James Harden's numbers in particular. But what about the defensive side of the ball? That's always been a big question mark with this Rockets team.
You know, and it starts with James Harden. Yeah. You know, everybody points out to his lack of defense, but I will say this year he's gotten better. If you look at the steals category, he's done a fantastic job. It just doesn't look like he gives as much effort as he does on the offensive end. But I think the pickup of Austin Rivers, tough-minded. Yeah. Kenneth Fareed, I think that's definitely going to help a guy, you know, like P.J. Tucker. And then Chris Paul is back. I don't know if they have enough defensively. I would love to see them have some more guys, but I think they have enough guys to maybe get over the hump. I don't think they're as good defensively last year, losing Trevor Ariza, but I like the guys, the additions they have now, Swin.
The additions they have changed up how they're defending, Smitty. And what I've seen from them, and it started even when I watched them against the Celtics in Boston, they are pressing up more on the wings. And so they're starting to deny a little bit more. And when guys get the ball, it used to be, especially James Harden, he started this whole thing. He would be a few steps back, and he's trying to preserve himself for offense. But you talk about putting those other guys into the mix, and they are right there. They're being aggressive. They're fighting through screens. That's how your intensity picks up. Obviously, CP3, we know he's going to get after you. He's going to give you that intensity. But all of those other guys, they're starting to turn it up a little bit more, and that's where we see the productivity from them on the defensive end.
Well, the West is not the only conference where things are getting a little bit tight.
The East is pretty good.
It's very good. Let's take a look
stop
at
hating on it. Give these a little love.
They had a bad reputation, but now they're starting anew. 1 through 10 is what we're looking at right now. And guys, only 2 games separate 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. And I look at the Boston Celtics. Obviously, they're, you know, had a down year. But they're 2 games out of maybe getting to 3. But the darlings for me is the Indiana Pacers. What they've done, you know, since Victor Oladipo went down. But I think also people don't remember, he didn't start the season. He was injured. And they also held down the ship. Nate McMillan, in my opinion, there's some guys that, you know, should be in that category. And Brendan Malone in Denver, and also Bud in Milwaukee. But I have Nate McMillan as my coach of the year. What he's done to have this team and still in third and possibly keeping that. People still feel like they're going to drop. but they haven't.
People have been saying that, like, week after week. It's like, oh, the Pacers are going to drop, but they're still just right there. You keep saying it, and they're still right there. And that's a lot of credit to Nate and his system, I believe, and the guys also buying into it. But I also like the fact whenever they picked up Matthews, we kept saying, how is he going to be able to contribute to this team? But he's coming, he's giving 13 points. He's shooting about 40% from the three. That's what you need. They didn't need somebody to come in and be a star player. They needed somebody to come in and just plug the hole a little bit, give us some points, knock it down from the outside, and everybody just keep doing your job. And that's why they've been grinding away.
You talk about a team that's a little bit surprising. You mentioned the Pacers. The Philadelphia 76ers have been very solid. The reason why I say possibly surprising, Tobias Harris came right in, fit right in, and has put his fingerprint on that team.
His game is one of those games, Swin and Steph, where, he doesn't need plays ran for him. He doesn't need a lot of dribbles. He can play off of other guys and then also put up points like a second option. And then I think also his character helps as well. You can have players, Swin, this, fantastic players, but they don't fit in as far as their character and winning attitude. Tobias Harris is one of those guys I just love watching him, love what he stands for. I look at this team, if they're healthy, they got a chance. But when they're not healthy, it all comes down to that guy Joel Embiid. If he's not healthy, then I think the Philadelphia 76ers might struggle in that playoffs.
Well, that's been a problem here lately. Joel Embiid will not play again tonight. It's his 8th straight game. They've been 4-3 without him in the previous 7. Swin, you're very familiar with what it takes to make a championship run. What happens if he is in and out of the lineup?
They need him on the floor. Bottom line, they're not going to advance, especially in the East, if he's not on the floor. But just talking to a few people that have watched him warm up, they say he looks good. But this is just management right now.
That don't look good to me, Swin.
That looks comfortable to me. I remember those massages, Smitty. I'm like, get my back, get my ankles, get my calves, everything. But, I've had a back injury, and so you have to make sure that you're maintaining, you're doing all the things to keep you ready to play. But at the same time, it all comes down to chemistry. I'll go back to it. You can rest as much as you want, but when those games and that intensity picks up in the playoffs, you want to make sure you're hitting on all cylinders. And what I'm worried about is you're adding new pieces in with Tobias, but you also have other guys that have to get acclimated to playing with him. And they have to get acclimated to Embiid. Who's the guy they're going to down the stretch? Who's going to be our closer? What plays are we running? That's all practice right now, getting ready for the playoffs. You can't just come back late into the playoffs and say, hey, we're here we go. It takes some time, and I think, Smitty, they have to get him back. But you want to be healthy, I understand that, but they need to get him back sooner than later.
Well, they have about 4 weeks to figure it out because the playoffs
I'm looking at the standings, right? They can lose home court.
I mean,
lose a few when you're down there.
It's dicey right now, but that's why we love it. The NBA. As I